Well, welcome aboard, everybody. Dr. Peter Glidden, your steadfast advocate for health. I'm very excited about this interview with a longtime colleague and friend of mine, Dr. Michelle Brannick. She is one of the few people in the world who have a dual degree. Not only is she a licensed, regulated naturopathic physician, but she's also a chiropractor. And she's practicing in the great state of Illinois under her chiropractic license, but her first love is naturopathic medicine. She is an NDDC. She has two beautiful clinics in Chicagoland. She has years of clinical experience. And today we're going to be talking all about colonics. Dr. Brannick, welcome aboard.
Thank you, and Dr. Glidden, for that beautiful introduction.
Well, credit due is credit due, and there are only a handful of people in the world who have gone to school twice, right? By following their life's path and their motivation, and that's a very unique thing in this world, and you deserve a lot of credit because of it.
Well, it is truly my passion that has gotten me through the education and the ability to keep going. I just love this medicine.
Yeah, it really is. In my experience with people that are sticking it out longer than 10 years, right, is that they're into it because they're dedicated to it and because they feel like they've been called to the practice of medicine. I don't think there are very many MDs that are able to say the same thing. Quite frankly, it's a privilege from my point of view to be hanging out in the same room with other people who have, taken upon themselves the mantle of naturopathic medicine, because let's be honest, it is not easy in this political climate to be a naturopathic doctor, not at all. So tell my listening audience how many years you've been practicing and where your clinics are.
Okay, so I have been practicing for 14 years, and I work enormous amount of hours. I work 6 days a week, so I feel like I have more than 14 years experience. However, I have two clinics. One's in Riverside, or I have two clinics. One's in St. Charles, Illinois, and one's in LaGrange Park, Illinois.
Yeah, St. Charles and LaGrange Park. Is the LaGrange Park facility brand new?
It's brand new.
Well, you got to love that. Good for you for
Really good.
opening up a brand new clinic. Boy, I tell you, I've done that, and that is not easy.
Yes. I also have access to an office in Chicago that a friend of mine is allowing me to see patients there too. It's not a full clinic like the ones that I have in LaGrange Park or St. Charles, but it is an office where I can see patients, where I can do an intake.
Now, a lot of people don't know this, but there is, in fact, a naturopathic medical school in Illinois, in Lombard, Illinois. They're affiliated with a chiropractic college there, and they have students that need to do intern hours, and I think you're helping to fill that gap. Is that correct? Do naturopathic students intern at your clinics?
Correct. I usually have a new student with me every week. I have seen many students through the years through my clinics, from not just National University of Health Sciences, but all the naturopathic colleges and universities in the state in the United States.
And I've spoken about this openly and repeatedly on my radio program and through my webinars, but quite frankly, naturopathic medicine is listing seriously towards the direction of this strange hybridized green allopathic medicine. And ironically, frustratingly, saddeningly, if that's even a word, I think I just made up a word, there is not that much good old-fashioned naturopathic therapeutics being taught anymore at the colleges of naturopathic medicine. So it's up to people like you and me and a handful of the old-timers who really have our fingers on the pulse to help bring these students along, right, into the real world of science-based, clinically verified medical nutrition and naturopathic therapeutics. So again, my hat goes off to you. I believe that you along with Dr. Wallach, are two of the unsung heroes of naturopathic medicine. As far as I'm concerned, you deserve to be naturopathic physician of the year. Considering everything that you've done, I mean, no kidding. Let's put our cards on the table and give credit where credit is due.
But what's really interesting is the students are starving for this hardcore naturopathic medicine where they want to learn how to treat the cause. They don't want to suppress symptoms. They understand that there is more to it. And so they are actually starving for this naturopathic medicine that is being not utilized as it used to be.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Certainly when I was in school, it was naturopathic medicine all of the time. Everything that we were taught was grounded in naturopathic philosophy, and not so much anymore. More's the pity. This is why the work that you do is so important. Now, towards that end, what we're going to be focusing on here in this interview is the much misunderstood subject of colon hydrotherapy. Now, you have a number of dedicated colon hydrotherapists working for you, so let's just give the listening audience kind of an overview of what colonic therapy is all about in the first place. So, let's start with the goal, right? When someone is inclined towards getting a series of colon hydrotherapy treatments, why would a person want to do that in the first place?
Okay, so there's many reasons why people should get colonics. First of all, it's a very safe and effective treatment for cleaning out the large intestines. People who have chronic constipation they're impacted, and the walls of the intestines become encrusted with old fecal matter that cannot really be removed without colonics, because you can take laxatives, but that's just going to put a hole in the middle so that you can have some bowel movement, but the outside of the large intestine is encrusted with old fecal matter that needs to be eliminated so that the proper lubrication of the large intestine can return, and then you could have normal bowel movements again. And sometimes it takes a series of between like 3 and 12 treatments to really clean out everything and to get the intestine working better. But people who have a lot of inflammation, like colitis or poor digestion, where they're having gas and bloating, also need to do colonics, because it helps to clean things up so that the normal bacteria can return and help to digest that food. When we don't have good bacteria in there, we have bad bacteria that actually ferments, and it causes a lot of problems with toxicity, and people get things like headaches, fatigue, gray skin. They don't have vitality. They are just chronically getting weaker and weaker. So really, to clean out all the sewage is what it really is refreshing to the tissues of the large intestine, and they start to work better.
Interesting, because everything's connected, of course, right? When you have a positive impact at the tail end of the system, you're going to have a positive impact on everything upstream from that, because everything's connected. Now, in Ayurvedic medicine, right, arguably one of the oldest systems of medicine on planet Earth, one of the things that Ayurvedic medicine suggests is that colon cleansing is part of annual colon cleansing is part of the Ayurvedic strategy for longevity. That one of the secrets to living a long life is to get your colon irrigated on a regular basis. So not only, right, colon hydrotherapy indicated for people with colon pathology, irritable bowel, inflammatory bowel disease, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, chronic constipation, but it's also a really, really great thing to do for maintenance. Now, let's get down to the nuts and the bolts of a colonic. So when someone who doesn't know anything at all about colon hydrotherapy is considering colon hydrotherapy, what should they expect? What's their experience going to be with, the application of the colonic itself?
Sure. I want to start with the therapists who do this. They really believe in what they do, and they actually love helping people. So you don't have to feel embarrassed that this is something they haven't seen before. They've done hundreds and hundreds of colonics. They're very comfortable with this. They really like to help people and feel good about what they're doing. So the therapists themselves, and including naturopathic physicians, we are all trained in this. The therapists go through a program and they're IX certified. They are, in fact, one of my therapists is also a massage therapist, but they are actually trained in a formal program. The equipment that's used is all disposable, so it's sterile, it's good, there's no bacteria on it. It's a process where when a person comes in for the first time, we actually do an intake to understand what's going on with them, and then to see if they are good candidate for colonics. And in our 14 years of doing colonics, we've never ever had a problem. So it's a pretty safe, gentle treatment of really, like you said, of detoxification. But what happens is you are covered the whole time. There's a sheet on you. And what the therapist does is she does, to begin with, she does an anal inspection to just make sure the speculum is the right size. And there's a speculum that goes into the rectum. It's a very short, small speculum, and there's no pain with it. And what happens is water is gently, it's warm, purified water is gently infused into the large intestine. And while that is going on, the therapist is also hands-on the abdomen, working the abdomen to help to release the fecal matter with the warm water. So water goes in and then it comes out. So there's like a pumping motion. So water comes in, they massage, and water comes out. And then water comes back in. There's nothing high pressured about it. It's all just what the elasticity of the large intestine can handle. And if there's too much pressure, the system instantly shuts off and allows it to come out. So there is no high pressured apparatus here. It is strictly just what's allowable to get in. And as the colonic goes on, usually with the release of stool, there's more water that's allowed to come in.
So from the patient's point of view, from the person's point of view who's getting the colonic, the colon hydrotherapy session, they're lying on a massage table.
Correct.
They have the speculum inserted. The other end of the speculum is attached to the water chamber, purified water. And the colon hydrotherapist opens up a valve, lets a little bit of water in, and then when the patient feels like that's enough, they turn the valve off. Now, does the person who's getting the colonic have to do anything? Do they have to force anything? Or if you're sitting on the toilet and attempting to have a bowel movement, you have to be involved in that process. But with colon hydrotherapy, I don't think that's necessary, right? The patient is just lying there, just doing their very best to relax. Is that basically the picture?
That is correct. It is a passive treatment. Just feedback is given back to the therapist, but it's nothing that they have to work on, and it's actually refreshing and comfortable. Very few people have any discomfort. Occasionally, a person who is severely constipated may have a little bit of discomfort, but I would not call it pain or anything that is going to usually stop a colonic. But if there is a problem, we definitely can stop a colonic.
Now, from start to finish, how long does the session take?
So the actual colonic itself is about 40 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. And now here's an interesting question. And I know that this is impossible to answer because everybody's unique. And the naturopathic foundation philosophy is we don't treat disease, we treat the patient, and every patient is unique and every patient is different, right? So, however, having said that, what, generally speaking, is the range of experiences that people who have just had a colon hydrotherapy session can experience? Do they feel tired? Do they feel energized? What happens, generally speaking, and what can the average person expect?
Okay, we'll go to the most frequent. Most frequently, people report more energy, feeling relief. Their abdomen is smaller because they don't have all that stool in them anymore, so they feel like their pants are fitting better, they feel less bloated, they feel energetic, they feel clarity of thought. Some people who are very, very constipated actually feel tired because we are releasing some toxins and it stirs things up, And so some people report fatigue and a little bit of like brain fog. And those are people who usually need to go home and rest a little bit, but within a few hours, they're back to their normal self. Once you get a colonic, you are not tied to the toilet. You can hold just like any other day, and you can go about your business right after the colonic. There is no this understanding that you have to stay home because you have to run to the toilet. There is no such thing as that. Everything is, before you leave, the colonic is, everything is removed. So it's not like there's any urgency there, and you're still able to hold if you do have to go.
Yeah, it's an interesting process. Now, of course, in naturopathic medicine, there's a conversation and a concept of a healing crisis that happens, right? Now, what, from your point of view, what is that? And roughly, how frequently do you see people who've undergone colon hydrotherapy sessions experience a quote-unquote healing crisis?
I don't see it too much, actually, because most people feel good. It's an internal bath. And so I think those are people who are responding quite well. I don't really see a healing crisis too often.
It's an interesting thing to talk about because I'm in my mid-50s now, and I've had 3 remarkable healings in my life. One with homeopathy, which is why I became a naturopathic doctor in the first place. I had a miracle cure with a homeopathic medicine delivered by a naturopathic doctor. And the other 2 were with colon hydrotherapy sessions. The very first time I ever had a colonic was before I was in naturopathic medical school. I was in college. I was staying in Boston at my college girlfriend's apartment, and I went to get a colonic at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I come back to the house, and that night, over the course of 12 hours, I experienced in reverse order symptoms of Lyme disease that I had had 5 years previous to that. So I lived in a part of the country where there was a very high incidence of Lyme disease, right? And long story short, in 12 hours, in reverse order, I experienced all of the symptoms that I'd had of Lyme disease. It was Herring's law of cure, and it worked itself out in 12 hours. And I woke up the next morning after that storm had passed, and I got to tell you, I felt like $1,000,000. People that get colonics, who have chronic migraines, who have asthma, who have arthritic problems, who have high blood pressure, who have illnesses that they're dealing with on a regular basis, what do you see those people report to you as how the colonic session or sessions impacts their experience of their chronic disease? What should people expect?
They should expect a reversal of their symptoms, just like you described. As their intestines get healthier and stronger, they're going to be, first of all, eliminating better, which is always a good thing, but they're going to be absorbing more out of their food, so they're going to be absorbing better nutrition, and they're going to feel more vitality, more clarity of thought, more energy. They're probably going to sleep better. Their skin is going to shine, because when we don't detox correctly, we detox through our skin. So when you're detoxing correctly through your liver and your large intestine, your skin should glow. That grayness should go away that a lot of people have today.
So generally speaking, for the average person on the street, for someone who's interested, involved in wanting to optimize their body's ability to work the way that nature and God intended it to, how many colon hydrotherapy sessions do you recommend the average Joe on the street get in order to get the most bang for their therapeutic buck?
Okay, so, and this, Dr. Glidden, is that everybody's an individual, so it depends on their case and it depends on them. However, we recommend initially 3 treatments in a 2-week period. So we start, and we like to give a couple days in between, but we like to do 3 treatments in a 2-week period because it completely empties out the large intestine. 1 treatment is not going to clean out the whole intestine. It usually takes about 2 or 3 treatments to get all the way through the whole large intestine. A lot of people need more intense treatments, and we recommend like 12 treatments over a 3-month period. And that is for people who are a little bit more chronically ill, who have chronic digestion issues, and especially with this chronic constipation and colitis thing that goes on with so many people today.
Yeah, and you know, especially again from the naturopathic point of view, everything begins in the digestive tract. We trace everything back to the digestive tract. So the healthier we can make the digestive tract, that's just going to have ripple effects on the rest of the body. And just there's not one single thing that's bad about this treatment. It's very, very beneficial across the board in a holistic way, right? In a quintessential holistic way. Seems funny that by irrigating the colon, you would have systemic effects on the whole body, but you do. And I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that if you haven't had a colonic, you need to get one. It is one of the best things that you can do for your health. I recommend getting a series of colonics every year if you can dial that in. And if you're dealing with a chronic illness, maybe more, but you need to consult the colon hydrotherapist who you're working with, because they're going to give you hands-on feedback about what they think you should do. Now, let's get into the financial aspect of this. In your practice of working as a chiropractic physician in the state of Illinois, does insurance pay for colon hydrotherapy?
They do not. They do not.
And are you aware of colon hydrotherapy treatments being paid for by insurance anywhere in the United States?
Not that I know of. I mean, we are connected with Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO in that we're in network, and we have tried to build colonics in the past, and we have never ever been able to be successful at getting those paid. They don't think it is a medical necessity, which of course you and I know that it is a medical necessity, but they do not look at it as a medical necessity.
And it's just a crying shame. You would think that of all the industries, the insurance industry would get behind this, because colon hydrotherapy 100% preventive, right? I mean, it goes a long way towards strengthening the system and preventing things. So from an insurer's point of view, it's a no-brainer. Yeah, let's pay for that, so we don't have to pay for the heart surgery 5 years from now, right?
Right.
But they're not going to pay for that. They're not going to pay for naturopathic treatments. They're not going to pay for homeopathic medicines. They're not going to pay for herbal medicines. They're not going to pay for vitamins and minerals. No. And that is perhaps a subject for an entirely different webinar.
Correct. Your prescription drugs are paid for, but not your supportive nutritional and health supplements.
Yeah, it's just a crying shame.
It really is.
Okay, so let's finish this up and let's bring it all home. So the average person on the street, if they're considering having a series of colonics, how do they know who to go to, and what should they look for in trying to, determine this colon hydrotherapist from that?
I would look and see if they are somehow have any formal training or a certification. So there is no licensing of colonics, and so what I require for therapists to work in my clinic is that they are IX certified. And this is a formal education, not a licensing, but it's not even a registration. It's just a certification that they get to say that they are formally trained. And fortunately for me, my colon therapists have many, many years experience. They've all been practicing colon therapy for well over 10, 15 years.
Yeah, and that's an important point to ponder, and I give people counsel about this all the time. Of course, the new graduates from naturopathic medical school hate this when I say it, but, right, if you are going to entertain treatment with anything, right, I don't care if you go to the Surgeon General of the United States or a shaman in the jungles of Brazil, you want to go with the person that's had the most experience possible. So that's a good question to ask. I'm not familiar. Is it India X-ray IX a certification? Is that what it's called?
No, it's called IACT. It's I-ACT.
Oh, okay.
And it's I don't know if it's just in this area, but that's what I'm familiar with.
So you want to look to see, ladies and gentlemen, if your colon hydrotherapist is I-Apple Charlie Tango certified. And of course, visit their office before you sign up. Look to see if it's, a professional setting. And you always want to ask the hard question, how long have you been doing this? Well, Dr. Brannick, this has been a pleasure for me. I'd like to do more of these informational sessions with you because there are hundreds of millions of people in the world who are sick and suffering needlessly. Education goes a long way towards helping to bend people into the light of real health care delivered by naturopathic physicians such as you. I really appreciate your time. Tell people where they can go to learn more about you. What's your website?
BrannickClinic.com.
BrannickClinic.com. There it is at the bottom of the video screen. BRANNICK clinic.com. If you live in Illinois and you haven't seen Dr. Brannick, you are missing it. Dr. Brannick, thanks so much for your time and your dedication to the profession. If there were 100 more people like you, things would be very, very different. I appreciate your time very much.
Thank you, Dr. Glidden, very much.
We'll see you in the future. Thanks so much.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for your time. I am your steadfast advocate for health, Dr. Peter Glidden. Live long and prosper. I'll see you around campus.